The frontier colony of Haven's Reach was quiet at night. The great glass dome that covered the settlement hummed with energy, keeping the atmosphere safe inside. Beyond the dome, the alien world was dark, filled with strange creatures and endless forests glowing faintly with bioluminescent plants. Inside the dome, most colonists slept, but Ethan Cross was not one of them. He was a young engineer, only 24, with messy black hair and tired eyes that often stayed awake far too long. His job was to maintain the dome's power lines and patrol the outer shield generators. It was not glorious work, but it was necessary. Ethan had grown used to walking the edges of the dome at night, listening to the hum of machinery and staring at the alien stars above. Sometimes, when the night was clear, he wondered if Earth's ancestors had ever felt this same silence when they first settled unknown lands. On this particular night, however, the silence was broken. A sound echoed through the forest outside the dome, a low, pained growl that carried through the still air. Ethan froze. He knew the wilds beyond were dangerous. The colonists had strict rules. Never go beyond the dome at night unless you were armed and trained. Ethan was neither. But something about that sound, it wasn't the howl of a predator. It was hurt. Desperate, Ethan hesitated. His logical mind screamed at him to ignore it and return to the safety of the colony walls. But his heart told him that if someone or something was suffering out there, he couldn't just stand by. He sighed, muttering to himself, "I'm going to regret this." Slipping through a maintenance hatch near the edge of the dome, Ethan stepped into the alien night. The air outside was heavy, rich with oxygen, and every breath burned slightly in his lungs. The glowing plants lit his path, painting the forest in eerie shades of green and blue. The growl came again, weaker this time. Ethan followed it, his boots crunching against alien soil. After several tense minutes, he came upon a small clearing. And there, lying against a tree, was a figure he could barely believe. She was tall, taller than him by a head at least, with silver-gray fur that shimmered faintly under the alien moonlight. Her body was humanoid but powerful, every muscle coiled like a predator. Her face was wolf-like with sharp ears, golden eyes half-closed in pain and fangs glinting faintly. A deep wound cut across her side and blood seeped into the soil beneath her. A Lyrak. Ethan's breath caught. The Lyrak were infamous across the sector. They were called alien werewolves by colonists, feral warriors feared for their speed, strength, and pack loyalty. Humans had clashed with them before, though recently there had been talk of uneasy peace, and here was one of them, bleeding and alone. Ethan knew he should run. One bite from a Lyrak could tear through a man, but instead his feet carried him closer. The Lyrak's golden eyes snapped open, glowing faintly in the dark. A snarl escaped her throat, low and warning. Ethan froze, raising his hands slowly. "Easy, I'm not here to hurt you." Her growl deepened, but she was too weak to rise. Ethan swallowed hard, heart hammering. He had a small medical kit clipped to his belt, standard for engineers working near dangerous machinery. His instincts screamed that leaving her to die would be safer, but something inside refused to let him turn away. He crouched slowly, opening the kit. "If I don't help, you won't last the night. So either let me try, or I'll leave you here." The Lyrak's chest rose and fell with sharp breaths. She bared her teeth but made no move as Ethan carefully pressed a sterile patch against her wound. Her fur was warm under his fingers, and he tried not to think about how easy it would be for her claws to rip him apart. Minutes passed. Ethan worked silently, cleaning the wound, stopping the bleeding, sealing it with the tools he had. The Lyrak watched him the entire time, her golden eyes never leaving his face. When he finished, Ethan leaned back, exhaling in relief. "There. That should keep you alive until your people find you." But before he could stand, something unexpected happened. The Lyrak's clawed hand shot out, grabbing his wrist. Her grip was weak, but her eyes burned brighter. She whispered something in a language he didn't know, her voice rough and deep. Suddenly a strange warmth pulsed through his skin where she touched him. Ethan gasped. His vision blurred, his heartbeat quickened, and for a moment he felt something alien press against his thoughts. Not words, but emotions. Pain, fear, relief, and something primal and binding. Then it was gone. The Lyrak released him, collapsing back against the tree. Ethan stumbled away, clutching his chest. What the hell was that?" Her golden eyes softened, and for the first time she spoke in broken human tongue. "Bond complete." Ethan blinked. Bond, what bond? But before he could ask more, the forest rustled. Shapes moved between the glowing trees. Low growls echoed deeper than hers. Predators, drawn by the scent of blood. Ethan's stomach dropped. He was unarmed. The Lyrac, though weak, forced herself up, baring her teeth. Her body trembled, but her snarl was fierce. And when the predators burst into the clearing, four-legged beasts with long fangs and glowing eyes, she moved with sudden fury. She leapt, claws flashing, teeth snapping, every motion a blur of deadly power. Ethan could only watch in awe and terror as she tore through the pack, even in her wounded state. One beast lunged for Ethan, but before it reached him, the Lyrac slammed into it, ripping it aside with a roar. Moments later, the clearing was silent again. The predators scattered or dead. The Lyrac collapsed to one knee, panting heavily. Ethan rushed forward, instinct driving him. "You're going to tear your wound open again." She snarled at him at first, but when their eyes met, something strange happened. Ethan felt a flicker of her emotion inside him. Exhaustion, pain, but also trust. The bond. Ethan didn't understand it, but he knew one thing. This alien warrior had chosen him for something he wasn't ready for. He helped her to her feet. She was heavy, her frame powerful, but she leaned against him. Step by step, they made their way back to the dome. When the colony gates opened, guards rushed forward, weapons raised at the sight of the Lyrac. "Stand back," one shouted. "That thing is dangerous." The Lyrac growled, her lips pulling back over sharp teeth. The guards tensed, ready to fire. But Ethan stepped between them, raising his hands. "Don't shoot!" "She's with me." The guard stared at him as if he'd lost his mind. "With you?" "Ethan, that's a Lyrac." "I know," he said firmly. "And she's injured. I saved her life. If you fire, you'll have to go through me." The Lyrac's golden eyes flicked between Ethan and the guards. Then she did something none of them expected. She stepped closer to Ethan, baring her teeth at anyone who looked his way. Her snarl echoed through the dome's entrance, primal and protective. The guards froze. "Why is it snarling at us?" one muttered. Ethan swallowed, his mind racing back to her words. Bond complete. He didn't know exactly what had happened in that forest, but one thing was certain. He was no longer alone, and from this night forward, an alien werewolf girl would snarl at anyone who dared to look at him. The morning after the strange night in the forest, the colony of Haven's Reach was no longer quiet. Word had already spread. By the time Ethan Cross left the medical wing, colonists were whispering behind his back. Some looked at him with worry, others with suspicion, and a few with open fear. The reason for all of it was standing right behind him. The alien girl, Kara of the Lyrac, moved like a shadow at his side. Her tall frame and wolf-like appearance drew every eye. Silver-gray fur shimmered under the dome's artificial lights, and her golden eyes glared sharply at anyone who stared too long at Ethan. When a group of engineers passed by, one of them whispered, "That thing should be locked up." Kara's ears twitched. A low growl rumbled in her throat, sharp enough to make the man flinch and stumble back. Ethan sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "Kara, could you maybe not snarl at everyone?" She tilted her head, confused. "They look at you. Wrong. I warned them." "That's not how things work here," Ethan muttered, but there was no real anger in his voice. He understood. Whatever strange bond had formed last night, it made Kara see him as hers to protect. The problem was that humans weren't used to an alien wolf girl glaring like a predator every time someone breathed in his direction. As they walked, Ethan could feel Kara's presence in more ways than one. It wasn't just that she stood close to him, towering like a guardian. No, it was inside him too. The bond. He could faintly sense her emotions, suspicion toward strangers, irritation at the whispers, and when her eyes briefly met his, a warm pulse of trust. It was unnerving but also strangely comforting. When they reached the command center, Ethan knew things would get worse. The colony leaders weren't exactly known for patience. The council chamber was a wide room with a circular table. Several officials sat waiting, their expressions grim. Commander Hale, the head of Haven's Reach Security, was at the center. His sharp eyes locked onto Ethan the moment he walked in. "You've caused quite the mess, Cross," Hale said flatly. Do you realize what you've done? Ethan tried to stay calm. I saved a life, that's all. You bonded with a Lyrak, another council member snapped. Do you even understand what that means? Ethan hesitated. Not exactly. Kara's ears twitched. She stepped forward, placing a clawed hand on the table. Bond is sacred, stronger than pack, stronger than blood. He saved me. Now I guard him. Always. The council exchanged nervous glances. Commander Hale leaned back in his chair, studying her. So it's true. The stories weren't exaggerations. What stories? Ethan asked. That once a Lyrak bonds, they are bound for life, Hale said. They will fight, kill, and die for their partner without hesitation. To them, that person is everything. Ethan swallowed hard. He already suspected as much, but hearing it confirmed made his stomach twist. Kara, however, seemed unbothered. She simply stood tall, golden eyes daring anyone to challenge her words. One council member whispered to Hale, "This could spark war. The Lyrak will see this as interference, or worse, as weakness." Kara's head snapped toward him, a low snarl rising. Ethan quickly touched her arm. "Kara, stop." She stiffened, then, amazingly, fell silent at his touch. The growl died in her throat. The council noticed. Commander Hale tapped his fingers against the table. "This bond, it connects you both, doesn't it? She listens only to you." Ethan hesitated, then nodded. "I think so." The commander's gaze hardened. "Then understand this, Cross. Whatever happens from here on out, you're responsible for her. If she becomes a threat, it's your head on the line." Ethan wanted to argue, but Kara stepped closer, her presence steady at his side. He sighed. "Fine. I'll take responsibility." The meeting ended with tension thick in the air. As Ethan and Kara left, whispers followed them. Later that day, Ethan tried to return to his regular work on the dome's outer systems. It didn't go well. He was halfway through repairing a power conduit when two other engineers approached. One of them, a broad-shouldered man named Ryder, sneered. "So this is what you've been up to, Cross? Bringing wild beasts inside the dome?" Ethan didn't even look up from his work. "She's not a beast, and I didn't exactly plan for this to happen." Ryder snorted. "Doesn't matter. Everyone's saying you're cursed, bonded with a monster. She'll turn on you one day, and when she does, the rest of us will pay for it." Before Ethan could respond, Kara stepped between them. She bared her fangs, eyes glowing gold. "Speak again," she growled, "and I tear throat." The two men froze. Ryder's face went pale, and he quickly backed away, dragging his friend with him. Ethan groaned, rubbing his forehead. "Kara, you can't just threaten people." "They threaten you first," she replied simply. He wanted to argue, but deep down, part of him appreciated her loyalty. No one had ever stood by him so fiercely before. Still, life inside the colony grew more complicated by the hour. Every time Ethan walked through the streets, colonists stared, some with curiosity, some with fear. Kara snarled at anyone who got too close, making the rumors worse. Yet when they were alone, things were different. That evening, Ethan sat in his small quarters trying to read a datapad. Kara crouched nearby, examining the strange human tools on his desk. She picked up a wrench, sniffed it, then turned it over in her claws. "You use this to build?" she asked, her voice still rough but improving. "Yeah," Ethan said. "I'm an engineer. My job is to keep this place running." Kara tilted her head. "Strange. You are not warrior. Yet, you risked life for me." Ethan looked at her, then shrugged. "Because it was the right thing to do. I couldn't just leave you there." She stared at him for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, she gave a small smile, or at least something close to it. "Pack would not understand, but I do." Ethan felt a strange warmth at her words. The bond pulsed faintly inside him, like an echo of her emotions. Trust, gratitude, something deeper he couldn't name. For a while, silence filled the room, but it wasn't uncomfortable. Days passed, and Ethan slowly grew used to Kara's constant presence. She followed him everywhere, her protective instincts unshakable. He found himself adapting too, learning when to calm her with a touch or a word. And little by little, the colony began to notice something unusual. One afternoon, a child accidentally ran into Ethan while playing in the corridors. Kara tensed instantly, baring her teeth, but before she could snarl, Ethan placed a hand on her arm. "It's fine. He's just a kid." Kara hesitated, then relaxed. She knelt, lowering herself to the child's level. The boy froze, wide-eyed, but Kara only sniffed him curiously before stepping back. The boy laughed nervously and ran off. Ethan blinked in surprise. "You didn't snarl," Kara shrugged. "He is small, not danger. You said calm, so I calm." That moment spread through the colony faster than any rumor of fear. People began to realize that perhaps the alien girl wasn't just a beast. She listened to Ethan. She could change, but peace never lasted long on Haven's Reach. One night while Ethan and Kara were walking the edge of the dome, alarms blared. Red lights flashed across the colony walls. "Sabotage!" a voice shouted over the comms. "Power lines cut on the east sector, shields failing." Ethan's heart dropped. Without the shields, predators could enter the dome. Worse, rival alien factions sometimes prowled nearby, waiting for weakness. He turned to Kara. She was already on alert, ears pricked, fangs bared. "Enemies," she growled. "I smell them." Ethan nodded. "Then we'd better move. Fast." Together they ran toward the east sector. Ethan's mind raced. If someone was targeting the colony, it wasn't random. Someone wanted them vulnerable. And deep down, he feared this was only the beginning. Kara's golden eyes gleamed fiercely in the red light. She stayed close, ready to defend him from whatever came next. For better or worse, their bond was about to be tested. The circle was drawn in the middle of the colony square. The ground was marked with white chalk, lit by torches that flickered against the night. Colonists lined the edges of the square, whispering nervously, while towering Lyrak warriors stood in silence, their golden eyes watching. At the center stood Ethan, Cross, and Kara, side by side. The Lyrak chieftain raised his clawed hand. His voice carried like thunder. "This human claims bond with Kara of the Lyrak. To prove it, they face the trial of the pack. 3 challengers will test them. If they stand as one, they are kin. If they fall, they are forgotten," the crowd murmured. Ethan felt his throat go dry. He wasn't a fighter. He had no claws, no fangs, no armor. But he had Kara and the bond. He could feel her strength pulsing through it, fierce and steady. Kara glanced at him, her golden eyes calm. "Trust me. Trust us." Ethan nodded. "Always." The chieftain lowered his hand. "Begin." The first challenger stepped into the circle. He was massive, even for a Lyrak. Broad shoulders, muscles rippling beneath silver fur, eyes burning like fire. He carried no weapon, only claws. With a roar, he charged. Kara leapt to meet him, claws clashing in a storm of sparks. Their movements were fast, almost too fast for Ethan's eyes. She ducked, slashed, bit, and kicked with wild strength. But the challenger was stronger. He pushed her back, step by step, forcing her toward the edge of the circle. Ethan's chest tightened. He couldn't just stand and watch. His eyes darted around, searching. On the ground, near the circle's edge, he spotted a loose piece of metal, fallen from the barricades. Without thinking, Ethan snatched it up and shouted, "Kara, left!" She heard him through the bond. She twisted at the last moment, dodging the challenger's swipe. The warrior stumbled, exposing his side. Ethan hurled the metal piece with all his strength. It struck the Lyrak's leg, just enough to throw him off balance. Kara moved like lightning. She slammed into him, claws raking across his chest. The challenger fell to the ground with a grunt, defeated. The crowd erupted in howls and gasps. The chieftain's voice boomed. "First challenge. Passed." Kara turned to Ethan, panting. For a moment, her lips curled into a wolfish grin. "You fight in your way, good." Ethan's heart pounded, but he managed a shaky smile. "One down." The second challenger entered. This one carried a long staff carved from bone, spinning it with deadly precision. His eyes narrowed as he studied Ethan first, not Kara. "He knows I'm the weak link," Ethan muttered. Kara growled. "Not weak, different." The challenger struck first, sweeping the staff low. Kara blocked, claws scraping against the bone. But the warrior was fast, moving like a dancer, forcing Kara to defend again and again. Ethan felt her frustration through the bond. She was strong, but the staff kept her at a distance. Ethan's mind raced. Think. He wasn't a fighter, but he was an engineer. His eyes scanned the circle. At the edge of the chalk line, a torch burned brightly. Fire, heat, energy. Kara! Ethan shouted through the bond. Drive him this way! She didn't question. She feinted left, then lunged right, forcing the challenger back toward the torch. Ethan grabbed it, the flames hot against his hands, and thrust it forward as the warrior stepped too close. The challenger hissed, jerking back from the sudden fire. That single pause was enough. Kara pounced, knocking the staff from his hands and pinning him to the ground. The crowd roared. The staff clattered across the square. The chieftain raised his hand again. Second challenge. Passed. Ethan dropped the torch, his palms burned but steady. Kara helped him to his feet, her eyes shining. You are not weak, she said firmly. You are clever. Clever is strength too. Ethan smiled despite the fear still pounding in his veins. One more. The third challenger was different. He stepped into the circle slowly, calmly. His fur was streaked with white, his scars old and deep. He was older, but his eyes gleamed with wisdom and experience. He carried no weapon at all. The chieftain spoke. The final challenge is not claw or staff. It is heart. The bond itself. The elder warrior spoke for the first time, his voice low and steady. Lyric bond is sacred. If you are true, the bond will hold against fear. If you are false, it will break. Ethan frowned. What does that mean? The elder extended his claws not to strike but to rest against Kara's chest. She stiffened but did not move. Then he extended his other claw toward Ethan. Join hands, he commanded. Ethan hesitated, then reached for Kara. Their hands met, his small and human, hers large and clawed. The elder's eyes closed. A strange energy pulsed through the bond. Ethan gasped, feeling as if his very soul was being pulled open. Emotions surged between him and Kara. Her fear of losing him, her fierce loyalty, her pride, her pain. And then his own feelings flowed back. His trust in her, his determination to stand beside her, his belief that humanity's strength was not in claws or fangs, but in bonds. The elder pressed harder. Images flashed in Ethan's mind. Kara bleeding in the forest, snarling at the colonists, fighting beside him against the Kraith. But stronger than all of it was the feeling of unity. The bond held. The elder opened his eyes slowly, withdrawing his claws. His voice was solemn. It is true. The bond is real, stronger than blood, stronger than fear. The square erupted into howls and cheers. The chieftain raised his arms. The trial is complete. The human and Kara are one pack. They are kin. The Lyrak warriors howled in approval. Even the colonists, though hesitant, began to cheer. For the first time, the two groups celebrated together. That night, the colony was alive with sound. Fires burned, food was shared, and for the first time, humans and Lyrak feasted side by side. Ethan sat on a low bench, exhausted but alive. Kara crouched beside him, tearing into a slab of roasted meat with sharp teeth. Her golden eyes flicked toward him every so often, as if making sure he was still there. Commander Hale approached, his expression serious. You've done something I didn't think possible, Cross. You've united humans and Lyrak. You've made us stronger. Ethan shook his head. Not me, us. I couldn't have done it without Kara. Kara swallowed her food and bared her fangs in something that almost looked like a grin. Finally, you speak truth. Hale gave a rare smile. Whatever the future holds, you've proven something important. Humanity isn't weak. We don't back down. We make bonds no one else dares. Ethan felt pride swell in his chest. For the first time in his life, he didn't feel like just an engineer. He felt like part of something greater. Later, when the fires burned low and the crowd thinned, Ethan and Kara walked outside the dome together. The alien forest glowed softly, peaceful under the stars. Kara looked up at the sky, her ears twitching. I thought bond with human would shame me. Instead, it is honor. Ethan glanced at her. I thought bonding with you would ruin my life. Instead, it saved it. For a long moment, they walked in silence, their steps matching, their bond steady and warm. Finally, Kara stopped. She turned to Ethan, her golden eyes glowing softly in the dark. No one will touch you without my snarl. No one will take you without my fight. This I vow. Ethan smiled, feeling the bond pulse with her words. And I'll stand with you, always. Together, they stood at the edge of the dome, two very different beings bound by something stronger than anyone had expected. Not claw, not technology, not fear, but bond, and in that bond lay humanity's true roar. The alarms echoed through the colony of Haven's Reach, their sharp cries cutting across the night. Red warning lights painted the walls, and the ground trembled faintly as shield systems flickered. Ethan Cross ran through the east corridor, Kara close at his side. Her claws clicked against the metal floor and her golden eyes glowed with fierce light. Power lines were cut here, Ethan said, his voice tight. If we don't repair them fast, the whole shield could fail. Kara sniffed the air, her sharp senses alert. Not beasts. Smell is wrong. Smell metal, oil, fire. Ethan frowned. Saboteurs, not animals. As they reached the east sector, the sight confirmed it. Shield pylons, tall metal spires that projected protective energy, had been damaged. Thick cables lay cut and sparking. Tools, not claws, had done this, but worse than the damage were the figures waiting nearby. Half a dozen tall aliens stood in the shadows. They were not Lyrak. Their skin was dark green, their eyes black and insect-like, and their limbs ended in sharp blades. Ethan recognized them immediately. The Kraith, one of the rival races that despised human expansion. The Kraith leader turned, clicking his mandibles. His voice was cold and metallic. Humans grow bold, building on worlds not theirs. Tonight your dome falls. Ethan's heart pounded. He had no weapon, only his toolkit. But Kara stepped forward, fur bristling, a deep growl rolling from her chest. The Kraith hissed. A Lyrak? Bonded to a human? His mandibles twitched in amusement. Pathetic. Your pack has fallen low. Kara bared her fangs. Better bonded to human than crawling insect with no honor. The Kraith screeched in rage, and his warriors rushed forward. The fight was chaos. Kara leapt with terrifying speed, claws slashing, teeth snapping. She moved like a storm, her body blurring through the enemy. One Kraith warrior fell with his throat torn, another with deep claw marks across his chest. But more came. Ethan ducked behind a broken pylon as energy bolts scorched the ground near him. His hand shook, but he forced himself to act. The shield needed repair. If it stayed down, more enemies could enter. He pulled out his tools, sparks lighting his face as he began to reconnect severed wires. Every hum of the generator was a small victory, but each second also risked his life. Kara fought like a beast, but Ethan could feel her through the bond, her fury, her focus, and beneath it, her pain. She was wounded from the night in the forest, and every movement cost her strength. Ethan, she snarled, striking down another enemy. Hurry! I'm trying, Ethan shouted, fumbling with a broken coupler. Sweat dripped down his face. He had never worked this fast before. A shadow loomed above him. A Kraith warrior raised his blade arm to strike. Ethan froze, but Kara slammed into the creature, sending it crashing to the ground. She snarled at Ethan without turning her head. Work, I protect. Something inside Ethan shifted. He wasn't just fixing wires anymore. He wasn't just an engineer. He was part of her pack now. If Kara was fighting for him, then he had to fight in his own way. For her. His hands steadied. He twisted wires, sealed conduits, and rerouted power with a speed he didn't know he had. Sparks flew, but the generator hummed louder. The shield was coming back. The Kraith leader screeched in fury. He leapt toward Ethan, but Kara intercepted, claws clashing against blade arms. Their fight shook the ground, savage and desperate. Through the bond, Ethan felt her strength fading. She couldn't hold much longer. With a final twist, Ethan slammed a breaker into place. The pylon flared, light surging up its frame. Energy rippled through the air, spreading to the dome. The shield roared back to life. The Kraith leader staggered, shrieking as the barrier forced his warriors back. Sparks danced across his carapace. With a final snarl of hatred, he retreated into the shadows, his soldiers fleeing with him. The battle was over. Ethan collapsed against the pylon, chest heaving. His hands were black with soot, his arms shaking. But the dome was safe. Kara limped to him, her side bleeding again. Her fur was matted, her breath ragged, yet her golden eyes still burned bright. You live, she said softly. Ethan looked at her, something tight in his chest. Because of you. She tilted her head, ears twitching. No, because of us, bond. Ethan swallowed hard, feeling the truth of her words. The bond was not one-sided. It wasn't just her protecting him. It was both of them, fighting together in different ways. When security forces finally arrived, they found Ethan sitting beside Kara, one hand pressed against her wound, his expression fierce. Commander Hale surveyed the scene, his eyes narrowing. So it's true. You fought them off together. Ethan didn't look up. We kept the dome safe. That's what matters. Kara growled softly at the soldiers who came too close, but when Ethan touched her arm, she stilled. The commander noticed. This bond, Hale muttered. It may be the colony's only chance. The Lyrak respects strength. If they hear of this, they'll test you both. And if you fail. He didn't finish, but Ethan understood. Kara's golden eyes met his. Trial of the pack, she said. Ethan frowned. What's that? A test, she explained, her voice low. When one not of the pack seeks place among us, they face the trial. If they win, they are kin. If they fall, she paused, baring her teeth. They are forgotten. Ethan's stomach twisted. And you think we'll have to face that? Kara nodded once. Yes, soon. The next days were restless. Repairs continued, but whispers of the attack spread. Colonists argued in the streets. Some blamed Ethan, saying his bond with Kara brought danger. Others saw him as a strange kind of hero. Kara stayed close, watching every face, every gesture. She snarled at anyone who insulted Ethan, and though it caused tension, it also kept trouble at bay. But Ethan knew the real challenge was still ahead. Late one night, as they walked the outer dome, Kara finally spoke of her people. Lyrak respects strength above all, she said. But strength is not only claw. It is heart, it is bond. You saved me, fought with me. That is why I chose you. Ethan glanced at her. You chose me? Kara nodded. Bond is not accident. Not fully. My blood called, but I accepted. I saw something human, strong, different. Ethan felt his throat tighten. For years he had been just another engineer, unnoticed, unremarkable. But to Kara he was something more. Through the bond he felt her honesty. It warmed him in a way words alone could not. But then she added, the trial will come. Other Lyrak will test us. If we win, they honor you. If we lose, they kill us both, Ethan froze. Both? Yes, Kara said simply. Bond is one. No separation. No survival alone. For a long time, Ethan said nothing. Fear gnawed at him, but he also felt something else. Resolve. He wasn't a warrior, but he couldn't back down. Not when Kara had already given so much for him. Finally, he nodded. Then we'll face it. Together. Kara's golden eyes softened, and for the first time since they met, she gave a true smile. A wolfish, fierce smile full of pride. You speak like Lyrak, she said. Maybe you already are. A week later, the trial came. The Lyrak arrived at Haven's Reach, towering warriors with silver fur and eyes like fire. They carried weapons of bone and steel, their armor etched with tribal marks. The colony guards tensed, but Commander Hale kept them from interfering. In the center of the dome's square, a circle was drawn. Ethan and Kara stood inside it side by side. The Lyrak chieftain stepped forward, his voice booming. Human bonded with Lyrak. A strange bond, untested. Tonight you face trial of the pack. If you stand as one, you will be honored. If you fall, you will be forgotten. The circle filled with challengers, 3 massive Lyrak warriors snarling and ready. Ethan's heart raced, his hands sweating. He had no claws, no fangs. But Kara looked at him, her golden eyes steady. Trust bond, she whispered. And in that moment, Ethan felt it, the link between them pulsing like a heartbeat. Her strength, her courage flowed into him. His focus, his determination flowed into her. They were not two. They were one. The trial had begun.